We have two audience members on FaceTime right now.
The Great Irish Famine. As many as 1 million dead, what once was a staple food for the average man of Ireland turned fatal as crops began to fail and disease began to spread. This crisis is more than just a famine. I've gone through extensive research on this topic through years of history classes and credible sources across the internet. To preview my main points, I'll first talk about the famine itself and its origin, political aspects, and the effects the famine had on Ireland, Irish people, and America. Famine began in 1845 as crops began to fail and disease began to spread. According to the article Late Bright by Britannica, disease damages the plant and its body begins to turn the color of purplish black. With the white spores appearing atop the damage, the tuber of the plant begins to rot, leaving it completely inedible, even more susceptible to disease and bacteria. The potato was a staple food of the Irish men, eaten for three meals a day, and according to Irish Famine Facts by John Keating, the average working male could eat up 14 pounds of potato per day. Now that I've discussed the famine itself, I'll now discuss its political aspects. According to Irish Potato Famine by history, the Irish government did little to combat the starvation, continuing to export large quantities of food despite its own people suffering. In its first attempt to combat starvation, it lifted corn laws and tariffs on grain, but this did little to offset the problem. Relief and food provided was halted when Lord John Russell became Prime Minister. Though his policies were later repealed and replaced, and relief was replaced through Irish poor laws, it backfired as many were evicted due to the cost of the laws being placed on landlords, many of who kicked their tenants out in an attempt to reduce liability. The UK was largely blamed for the outcome of the severity of the Great Irish Famine due to the lack of involvement, and many stating that they stood by while the Irish suffered. According to a paper published in 1847 by The Times, they stated that Britain had allowed Ireland a mass of poverty, disaffection without a parallel in the world. Many disagree with this point of view, such as Charles E. Trevelyan stated that it was a judgment of God sent to calamity to teach the Irish a lesson. The judgment of God must not be too much mitigated. The UK didn't release any formal apology until 1887, when the Prime Minister, Tony Blair, apologized for how the country handled the crisis. Now that I've discussed its political aspects, we can talk about the aftermath. The famine ended in 1852, with population greatly reduced, with 1 million dead and another estimated 2 million immigrated to America. It was the largest single population movement of the 19th century. The Irish immigrants were poor, malnourished, and starved, but their condition wasn't the only problem they faced. They were also Catholic. Conflict between Catholics and Protestants in the U.S. caused the Irish to become targets of the violence, being targeted by anti-Irish and anti-Catholic mobs, with destroyed churches and houses. Despite the difficulties the Irish faced, they eventually slowly began to integrate into society, with having the highest voting rates of any ethnic group. Irish culture slowly became more acceptable, St. Patrick's Day being the most notable example. According to the article How St. Patrick's Day Took a New Life in America by History, today many all over the country have adopted the holiday, celebrating and carrying over traditions. Over 9% of Americans today have primarily Irish origin. The famine itself, its politics, and impact on Ireland and America The Great Irish Famine and its many aspects have a large influence on the modern day world. Crisis resulted in tragedy and political failure, a significance undeniable, cementing the tragedy in our history books.
Very good.